Okay, I will call this special meeting of the Loveland Board of Education order at 7 PM, and I will ask the Treasurer, Mr. Giuffre, for a roll call.
Mr. Doherty,
Here.
Reverend Eiler,
Here.
Dr. Lorenz,
Here,
Dr. Schwetz now, Mrs. Washburn.
they are both going to be absent this evening. I believe they're both out of town. First item on our agenda is adoption of the board agenda. And before we make that motion, I just want to confirm, since I was meeting, was there discussion of setting another board meeting in August at that meeting?
There was discussion, but no decision made because we didn't know what you were able to do. So tonight would be a great night to announce that since you're available for
Okay,
this.
so we'll add that into the agenda. I just wanted to make sure. We don't need a resolution to call
No,
that meeting?
no. The board has shared with me that they would like to make that a special meeting on the second in lieu of the 26th. And so I'll put that announcement out.
Okay, we'll discuss that sometime during the agenda. I just wanted to know if we need data resolution.
Kathy, it looked to me like the video started a moment later, so we didn't get the attendees and roll call, maybe just for
Okay,
information.
So we have called to order, just for those who are looking at us online, we have called to order. We have 3 board members present this evening and also our superintendent and our treasurer. We have 2 board members who are absent and out of town. So we are now at the adoption of the board agenda item, and we would need a resolution for that.
So moved.
Mr. Doherty moved. I'm hoping that Reverend
second.
Eilert will second. Although I could, so. Any other discussion about the agenda?
One thing we might want to note, just for those that are watching, is that we have now passed the time where board members join remotely by the action of the state. So therefore now we can only have those that are present in the room in a board meeting.
Thanks for that reminder. So, all right, any questions about the agenda? Mr. Giuffre, can we vote on that?
Mr. Doherty,
Yes.
Reverend Eiler,
Yes.
Dr. Lorenz.
Yes. Nice to have visitors, guests with us this evening. I'd like to welcome you all. We are outnumbered now. Usually, often we are not outnumbered by the number of guests, but we are outnumbered this
Present.
evening.
Present. Online, we.
Yes, yes,
Have
but
another
I mean,
story.
actually physically in the room. So we are present in the Loveland Middle School, Intermediate School Media Center, and we do have live guests with us this evening. Before we go to the Pledge of Allegiance, I just wanted to mention the fact that I know there are some folks in the room that may not still have electricity. We did have a rather difficult storm go through yesterday, and mentioned that Goshen School District has suffered perhaps more than we have here in Loveland. And I spoke with Mr. Broadwater and said that he said that they have already reached out to Goshen to see if there's anything that they need to be done. I don't think there's catastrophic damage to Goshen schools, but I understood that there was damage to each of the school buildings there, and certainly lots of other there. So we just keep those folks in mind, and anyone in Loveland who also suffered damage. There was a good, strong storm that went through. So
I
that I-
also reached out directly to Goshen Township today and on behalf of the church, but also let them know school. So if there are other needs for the wider community too, more broadly later. Right now, they said they have.
I've also seen things online. There are folks in Loveland who are organizing to provide things for folks in Goshen. So-
We contacted, and Garth had talked to their assistant superintendent, just to make sure if they need help with freezers or anything like that. I think a lot of it was window damage and things like that, but we did reach out to make sure if there's anything we could do, we'd be more than willing to.
Thank you. So I just thought I'd make those announcements. Now I'll ask everybody to rise and join with us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Thank you. We will move right into, this is a special meeting, so there's not a public hearing session of the meeting. And we will start right away with superintendent updates.
Going to move to the podium here. Okay, Adam. Good evening. What I want to do first of all is just to let the board know that as we went through the strategic vision process, we did come up with a lot of suggestions, one of which was alternative funding source. Talked a lot about alternative funding sources. So we have a couple that we're going to see this evening. I thought, why not point it out and let you know that we are going to make focus on what we had talked about with our community and with that design team, because it is important that we continue to reach out and see how we can help our kids in different ways. The first example that I've got on the next slide there is the middle school lacrosse. Our lacrosse teams at the varsity level did very well this year. And the reason that our lacrosse teams do very, very well, both boys and girls, is because we have a strong community program. The Loveland Youth Lacrosse Organization is extremely strong, has worked very, very well with our kids. It is now time to move it into the middle school and make it an official Loveland City School District sport. You will see in the Eastern Cincinnati Conference, the ECC, quite a few of our sister schools there do have middle school lacrosse. And so it's moving that way with OHSAA. And so as you can see, this evening, we have four representatives who are here that we can say thank you to, three of which I know their names. But I do want to say, first of all, the $50,000 donation, the reason that we landed on that is so that the first 5 years, there is very little cost to the Loveland City School District. So for 5 years, that will take care of the supplementals for the coaches. We'll take care of the same equipment that we're doing at the high school level, which is basically a helmet, but it gets us 5 years with our kids. Part of the other idea behind the strategic vision is mental health, right? And we're worried about kids' mental health. There's no question that kids participating in extracurriculars, it certainly helps in that regard as well. So I'm very, very excited that we were able to land on this. I know over the summer, the same organization has helped out with our middle school field, and I think that did a lot of different things back there. And it just goes to show you that it's a great relationship that we have. We want to continue it, and I just want to say thank you. So if the four representatives could come up so I could say thank you personally, and the $50,000 donation will show up underneath Mr. Giuffre. We have Brian Livingstone. I want to say thank you. We have Anna McCura. Thank you. Michael. Thank you. And Keller. Thank you very much. So with that, I will turn it over to any four of you to say anything that you would like to say.
Thank you very much. We are very excited to transition the program to the middle school. This is Loveland Youth Lacrosse's 20th year in existence. Over the years, we've put out multiple high school All-Americans, 2 this year for the boys side, 2 last year for the girls side. Prior to that, multiple boy players started at the youth level. You'll see our players, kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, all the way on up to the high school. We've done, I think, a great job of bringing it into the community with a lot of help from Mike Katsonis here. It's been adopted. People love to play it. And I think that this really gives our kids a great opportunity to see it integrated into the schools and get that school support and have that Loveland on the jersey be more than just where they live, but also where they go to school. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If we could get a picture with them.
While they're taking a picture, we'll echo our thanks from the board. This is the way that high school lacrosse got started in the schools, and it's good to see that it's coming in at the middle school level as well. We really appreciate that that cooperation and that generosity. So thank you.
Thank you.
Before you go on, regarding logistics, those funds will be in their own separate account. We will be able to account for all of the revenues and just that for that donation for the next 5 years.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And also, if you have things to do, I want to be respectful of your time. If you need to go, I want to give you permission to do that as well.
It is nice to have the audience, though.
When they're wearing orange, it's good. Very good. The next, when we look at alternative funding sources, we have worked very, very closely with the city. City manager David Kennedy is here, Mayor Kathy Bailey, interim chief Sue Madsen. We've talked about safety, everything that happened in the world, especially in Texas. We've had concerns about safety. What are we doing? And we reevaluate at all times. I want to say that David Kennedy, the city manager, reached out to me, I think it was 3 or 4 weeks ago, and we met and had a discussion about what we can do. And the city is being extremely generous in extending the offer for a third school resource officer at the elementary level, which means it'll be the early childhood center, the elementary school, as well as the primary school. So it's 2 separate campuses, and we'll work through the logistics of that and what that looks like. But I hope people understand Loveland is a unique community. To have a community that has a local police department, not every school district has that. And a local police department that is willing to take on half of the cost for 3 school resource officers, that's a big deal. That's not something that happens in every school district. And so we are very blessed that they are working with us to allow us to do that. Where the world is right now, our number one job is to make sure kids are safe, and we want to do as much as possible as we can do that. And this is going to be a great step towards that. The contract is very similar. It's going to be item 2.2. It's the same as what we had for the other 2. Basically, it means we're going to be splitting the costs with Loveland City. We will have a process. The 3 elementary principals will be in the process of interviewing for that school resource officer position. And then we will sit down we'll meet the new chief and sit down and see what exactly that looks like. So David Kennedy is here. I wanted David to come up, and I wanted to be able to personally say thank you for doing it. It is a big deal. It means a lot for our kids. It means a lot for our parents to know that people are there, and grandparents and everybody that's there. So David, if you want to say a few words.
Thanks a lot. This was a real priority for Mayor Bailey. She reached out to me after an incident and just really wanted a state of the security. And it was very clear, for those of you know Mayor, when she gets her point across very clearly, and she said, we need to do whatever we can to make the students safe as possible. And Mike was immediate. I don't know that I actually got the sentence when I asked Mike about it over lunch, and the cooperation between the city and the school is really a wonderful thing. This actually will be the 4th SRO we have, since we also have one in St. Columban. So I think it was important. It was very important to Mayor Bailey that we get beyond happy. It's very ecstatic that we're able to get this done. We have a new chief coming on board August 1st. I think the community is really going to welcome him. And we are hiring 2 new officers. We're increasing our numbers. We're increasing our technology. Just added body cameras thanks to a grant Chief Ray was able to get before he retired. So we're doing everything we can. Of course, everybody knows how solid our fire department is. But I just want to say thanks. Mike's been a 3rd superintendent I've had to work with, and he's really been a gem to work with. So I'm going to leave it at that for you.
Well, and the board would like to say thanks as well. And I don't know if either of you gentlemen, I know Mike is new to our district, but if either of you gentlemen would like to speak to, safety obviously is the major job of these resource officers. But in my experience, these officers, men and women, have become part of the school setting as well, and have become additional resources for the district, for the students, people that students can be sure about, be confident in. And I think they've meant things other than just kind of patrolling and safety to the buildings. They've become important people. So
They're like
just-
another, yep.
But I think also a resource to the families. I know of families that have reached out to the SRO and have gotten terrific support. So it's a multifaceted role. And I think we're all very grateful.
Well, and I'll speak, having worked with some school resource officers over the years. Your best school resource officers build relationships with kids and families. They're a staff member. They're not looked at as a police officer until they need to be, right? But to build the relationships with the kids, know the kids, be able to have the conversations that sometimes other staff members aren't comfortable with having with the kids. If something happens over the weekend in the community, they're aware of it. They can let us know. And so it's just a great partnership. And the best SROs, and we've got great SROs, they're just a part of the fabric of the school. And the kids are not afraid to go up. There's relationships. And that's how you work together to make sure that you're keeping everybody safe. It's just everybody feeling comfortable enough to have those difficult conversations sometimes. So yes. Thank you. We'll get a
Again, thanks for the partnership.
Thank you.
last couple items and then I'll be done. We had mentioned the cost avoidance, kind of an alternative funding source, maybe more of a cost avoidance. But with Garth's hiring practices and kind of what we've said to our principals is make sure that we're hiring judiciously when we look at years of experience and making sure that if we give years of experience, it's a position that's very difficult to hire, very difficult to recruit. We are now over $600,000 that we'll be able to save in salaries due to Garth being strategic about how we hire. That obviously goes down as the years go on because the teachers, their experience, it moves up. But just another idea that we're always thinking about, how can we make sure that we're avoiding costs if we don't have to incur those. The other thing that happened this summer, our technology department worked extremely hard on Chromebooks. There's a technology buyback program. The Chromebooks that are out of the automatic update series where Google doesn't automatically update them, we went through, we had them put them on pallets, wrap them all up, sell them back, and we made around $55,000 there. And that's just another idea of what we try and do so that we're saving money, but also bringing money in. The part A there, the self-maintained technology, what that means is we have two gentlemen that we do all our break fix in-house. And so when we do the break fix and we send that invoice in, we actually made about $6,000 just fixing our own equipment. I just think it's important that we remind people that we're always going to be cognizant of how we can save money and make sure that we're avoiding costs if we can. So with that, the last thing, I do have it on here. We did receive from the state of Ohio, this is preliminary, but I did want to get it out as soon as I have it. If you recall the old system, rating system, they had the performance index and they had the grading where it would be from A through F. What the state of Ohio has done is they've changed it to a 1 to 5 star rating, kind of the same idea, but it's stars now. But 5 would be the highest, 1 would be the lowest. If you look at the blue there, achievement component rating, Loveland's received 5 stars this year. That's what we're about, right? We're about teaching kids and making sure that we're achieving. We achieved the highest rating in the state of Ohio, which is 5. Our graduation rate, the component rating there was 5 stars. The progress component rating will be coming in the future. They're not rating it right now. The gap closing, which means how far can we close the gap with a student coming into school, and at the end of the year, how much did we close that gap? We received 5 stars. To me, that's a big deal. When you're closing gaps, that means you're catching kids up, which means we're doing a very good job in the buildings. The early literacy component rating is 4 stars. To the Board of Education, if you remember, what we are going to be using ESSER funds for this year are additional reading specialists, because we could see that our scores were lagging and they call it the COVID gap, and that's probably where we are. But we've used the ESSER funds so that we could support the early literacy, and it kind of shows why we did that. The other one in the light green, I don't know if you can read it, it's college career workforce and military readiness component rating. It's not rated, but if you recall in the strategic vision, that's a big part of the strategic vision. So we're looking forward to moving forward with that as well. So with that, I will finish unless there are any other questions.
I'll just ask you, you said that the progress component rating would be coming on the other. Is that not coming this year, or would that be coming as well?
I'm sorry, it's not rated this year. It's going to be coming up in the future.
Got it. Thank
Both
you.
of those, yes.
All
I'm
right.
sorry.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Anything else? All right, then under the superintendent report, there is one item. which is a recommended action that the board enter into a memorandum of understanding with the city of Loveland regarding a Loveland Elementary School resource officer. And I don't see a place. We're going to vote on that, right?
I just took care of it on mine.
Okay.
Can I
Uh,
move
go.
to do so?
Yes, please. Mr. Doherty moves and I will second that motion.
Through the memorandum. of
Yes.
Correct.
I missed that. It went down on the next page and I didn't see it. I proofread this. I'm only getting 4 stars tonight. Any discussion on the memorandum of understanding?
Just one thing I think that's really important in there is there's a component where the selection process, although because they're a member of the police department in Loveland, that they have final say, but the school gets to be involved in that, which I think is a really important component of the memorandum of understanding. It's how we get to those officers that we say are part of our community and are really investing in kids. So I'm glad to see that that's continuing to be a part of that. And I think it's really important.
And I did speak with Mike Spock, I'm sorry, Mike Spock, the police officer there who's going to be was able to give him the contact information for our 3 principals today. So he's very aware that we're going to be a part of it. So,
Mike, I never ask you to, and I never wish you to disclose the various security and safety measures that you take for our kids and our buildings. I think maybe just important to point out to the public that this is a dimension of the safety protocol that the district has in place. It's not the entirety of it by a long shot. It's a component of it. And I would continue to urge you, as I do privately, to push on this area to whatever extent you feel appropriate. And if additional resources are needed, I think I can only speak for myself, but there's going to be a very willing listener
I
here.
appreciate it.
Keep the kids safe.
It's a high priority, I think, anytime there is a change. So this is a change, it's a good change. It also gives us the opportunity to reevaluate. How are we going to implement this 3rd SRO? There's a new police chief, as Mr. Kennedy had said. So we're going to set up some communication, set up a meeting there, go through what we do, what our priorities, protocols are. Obviously, the state of Ohio requires pretty in-depth safety plans, but we want to make sure we go above that. But I appreciate you saying that. And if there is a concern that we have, I'll make sure I bring it forward.
Anything else? Mr. Giuffre, can we vote on that?
Mr. Doherty,
Yes.
Dr. Lorenz.
Yes.
Reverend Eilert,
Yes.
Next item on our agenda is employment and resignations for certified classified homebound substitute and supplemental personnel for the 2022-2023 school year. And I'll ask for a motion on that, and then we'll have a report from Mr. Collier. So is there a motion for those items?
So moved.
Second.
Doherty moved and Reverend Eilert seconded. And so I will ask Mr. Collier for a report, and then we can have discussion on.
Sure. I just wanted to make sure to point out that this is on board docs. And the message that I sent you guys earlier, there are some additions. So those are highlighted in yellow for you guys to be able to see. And I know that this is a really super busy time of year for everyone, especially in the summertime is when people tend to be taking time off and taking vacations and those kind of things. Us having a meeting before the July 10th date is kind of an important piece for me as the HR director. I just really want to thank you guys. I know this is a really tough time for people to be making a special meeting, but I want to tell you thanks. It means a whole lot. As you can see, we have been really busy, not only in the spring, but also here in the summer, making sure that we are all geared up and ready to go for next school year. I am able to take any questions that you guys might have. Again, I know that it was mentioned, I think Mike maybe mentioned, and he was mentioning my name for, the hiring process and the district to be able to, keep in mind that we have a fiscal responsibility to our community. I just want to make sure to take this time to echo, to thank him for that, but also to say what I said last time is that our building principals have done a really nice job with taking direction on us finding the best folks for the best price that we can to make sure that we are having quality folks with our kids. And yes, that is my department, but our building principal has done a really nice job with that. So I just want to make sure to mention that. So.
Okay. I just had a couple of quick items.
Sure.
Yeah, item D, I just want to confirm the payment of stipends. Those are funds that come from the university to pay those
That's
mentors.
correct. Yes.
I know it's a small amount of money, but that's how that money comes through. But we
Yeah.
have to approve that payment.
That's
gets-
correct. Yeah. So that money comes to us and then we turn around and then we issue that
Give it
to the teachers that host those folks.
And then I had a question on something that's not on this list.
Okay.
It's on everybody's minds. How are we doing for bus drivers?
It's funny, I was gonna ask that too.
We all want to know.
We are doing okay. We haven't had any additional resignations for bus drivers. As you recall from our previous meetings and some of our conversations, structured our tier system for next year. So we are in line and looking like we are good to go for the next school year. We are obviously continuing to look at what we can do to attract drivers because something that we, of course, are interested in and thinking about and talking about and preparing for is the possibility of, in the future, maybe adding high school busing back to the district. And of course, that will require more drivers for us to do so. Mr. Broadwater and Mr. Setters and myself, along with John Ames, we have been talking about a couple of different advertising that we might, that we're basically talking about to attract some drivers. You guys probably know this, and I'm not saying, I want you to know that most of our drivers, they either live in the district or very close to us, right? We know that our kind of pool of candidates, if we are going to increase drivers, it's going to be basically here from home. And so we're talking about some ways that we can advertise in a much better way to make sure that we're kind of reaching that broader group. We're talking about the idea of partnering with some local advertisers here where we know that a lot of folks either read things online or basically that information that gets put out from folks here around the city of Loveland. Also, we're talking about the idea of purchasing some banners to go on the sides of buses and then parking those buses in different places around the city. Basically talking about here, we need you, we're hiring drivers, click here, call this number, that type of thing. We've been really brainstorming on what possibly can we do to possibly increase. We have done a lot of planning with the reshuffling of those tiers to really help, but we know that it's going to continue to be an issue. And we don't see the issue of, oh, we have so many drivers now. It's not something that's on our mind. We know it's going to continue that way in the future. And it's going to be kind of just the way that we have to do this is really kind of leaving no stone unturned. So great question.
Great. Yes, thank you. Developing that strategy and moving forward on trying to be aggressive in hiring.
Sure.
Garth, maybe
Yes.
just one question, and I'm not looking for a long, detailed answer on
Yeah.
this, but how difficult is it for somebody to become a school bus driver? If you were to explain it in a, very limited fashion,
So
the benefit of us in the
Sure.
public.
in a short kind of answer, if they already have a CDL license,
Which is a
which
commercial
requ-
driver's license, CDL, right?
So if they already possess that, it's a much shorter process. But I would say some folks that even don't have that CDL, we of course, we work with them and we make sure that they have the proper training and we also do training. Typically right now, if it's somebody that doesn't have a CDL and we're making sure that they're getting training as well as our own training, it's usually a 3-month turnaround. If somebody already has that CDL, it can be a much smaller window of time. It's looking about like a month. And
Should the average citizen, average driver within the population be concerned about this being a difficult thing to master? It looks like a big school bus and all this kind of stuff. Is it the kind of thing that a relatively skilled average
Yeah.
driver should be able to do safely?
yeah, I would say somebody that has average driving kind of experience. I would say that having a CDL license, of course, probably puts you more comfortable and with the size of the vehicle. But those are all things that the training for the CDL and the training that's specific to Loveland, those are all things that folks handle pretty well. The other really good thing that we have going for us is that we have a really great community. And so the kids that the drivers are kind of taking to and from school are really great kids. And we have lots of support from our families as well, which for other districts might be something that can be more difficult. You know, packed buses, lots of kids that can, and trying to be safe on the bus, that can be a worrisome thing, of course. But I know that we have a really great track record with our drivers. Our drivers really enjoy our kids. And I think that our parents also really love having the kind of a consistent bus driver and established relationships with that. I think this is something, and I'm not just saying this, but Kevin, this is something that, and you know, you don't have to be an expert. You don't have to have, well, I've driven an RV before. It is not that way. This is something that the average driver could check into, and I think they would really enjoy it.
So I think that Mike Broadwater has pretty good video presence. And I think you get pretty good viewership of your video updates on a weekly basis for the most part, right? Maybe a trip with a bus driver to demystify, de-intimidate potential candidates, something like that.
Sure, I can do that. I
Get
thought
the
you were
word
gonna
out.
ask me to get a CDL and drive a bus.
That's what I thought.
Got an RV.
I was thinking the same thing. Did we have a bus driver or two who would be willing to make a video that could talk a little bit about what it's like to drive a bus around in Loveland?
Well, and we do. I'll talk to Greg. We had talked about earlier this year riding on the bus to get an idea, but I think that's a great idea. And a lot of the training is, it's to your question, Kevin, it really is just knowing processes and procedures. When you get on a bus, what's the inspection look like? You have to go to the back of the bus and make sure it's okay. It's nothing that's too difficult, and to demystify, it's not a bad thing. So we could do that.
And I'm going to hope that there's some bus drivers on our staff that would be willing to talk about the fulfillment that they get, the fun that they have doing this, that it's not just a job.
That's great.
Kevin, honestly, and the rest of the board, just standing here, I can already think of 3, 4, 5 people that I know that if we said, hey, about this, they'd say, yeah, sure. Because
bet.
all of our folks really like their jobs, but I know that we have some people who are always willing to do, you know, whatever it is you need me to do, sounds great.
Yeah.
I think we could have some folks to do it. And I think Mike riding along on the bus sounds like a perfect idea. And I think Andrew should film the whole thing. I think
I would nominate Keith Richter. I think it'd be a really funny video.
All right. Anything else on this? We've spent a lot of time talking about things that were not on Mr. Collier's report. Any questions about the human resources that are there? All right. Can we vote on that, Mr. Giuffre?
Mr. Doherty,
Yes.
Reverend Eilert,
Yes.
Dr. Lorenz.
Yes, motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Collier. The last resolution on the agenda is the acceptance of the donation from the Level Lacrosse Club, and I would move that we accept that $50,000.
Second?
And Reverend Eilert seconded. Any questions or discussion of that, of the presentation at the beginning? And as I said then, I think it's a great way that we have gotten lacrosse into the district, both at the high school level and now the middle school.
Yeah, that
level.
was a great surprise. I didn't know that was coming, so it was wonderful to see on our agenda. Wonderful gift and great investment.
And more than one way to pay for something that's worth paying for.
Yep. And it's, again, I'll echo, and anytime you get kids after school having fun, it's a good thing. And being able to do it in conjunction with them being able to, it'll take care of the first 5 years for the most part, the expenses. We'll be able to evaluate the program after that.
I still have my lacrosse stick, but it's the wooden one with the
Bamboo.
fiber kind of, no, it's wooden, and I think it's catgut that is the,
Yeah.
you know, leather kind of straps to it. Broke more than one pair of glasses with a lacrosse ball to the face. It's safer now.
it
Very
is.
good. All right, can we vote on that, Mr. Giuffre?
Dr. Lorenz.
Yes,
Reverend Eilert,
Yes.
Mr. Doherty.
Yes.
motion carried. before we move to that adjournment, if we could just have a brief discussion. There has been discussion of a meeting. I believe was it originally scheduled for July 26th or was it not on the agenda, not on the calendar at all?
It was not on the calendar,
Originally July 26th,
right? We had,
Okay.
but then we got some conflicts. So
Okay, so we are looking to basically change a meeting date to August 2nd. It would be a special board meeting. Or
Yes.
yes, but in my understanding, it would function a little bit more like a work session.
yes.
In that there would be some discussion, possibly some introduction of the notion of superintendent evaluation. If I'm recalling correctly, that we would have some goals, not necessarily to complete a superintendent evaluation, but begin that discussion at that meeting. That there might be some work session or even some human resource items that would be published on the agenda before the meeting. And also the consideration of a levy issue would
Yes.
come up in that meeting, the discussion of that after the certification from the auditor.
And the agenda would be available at noon on Friday, so that'd be plenty of time to make the announcement to the public that they can, just like we did with the meeting from the 14th of, that went to the 16th, that was on the 26th of June.
So Rob,
We've
just to be,
moved some meetings around lately.
Rob, just to be clear about this, and Kathy also to be clear about this, this is intended as a working session, a discussion of various topics, as you just described. No business action presumably taking place at this meeting.
There would be business action if this is the meeting where we would consider the placement of a levy on the ballot. That
So-
would be action.
I'll just say this as far as semantics goes. A rose by any other name is still a rose. Regular, organizational, special, and emergency. So when we call our work session something, it's really a regular meeting.
Okay,
And-
but I'm really concerned about, again, pre-informing the public.
Right. And we would be
about what might
announcing,
be happening. So there could potentially,
could be
sorry,
action.
there could potentially
There
be a
will be
vote on,
action.
on putting the levy up on the November
There'll be
ballot.
one piece, but there will also be HR, there will be financials. It will be as a regular business meeting, we call it, but it's a regular session that has been rescheduled, so it becomes a special meeting as a result. with the
But we
same
also
agenda.
have a regular business for August on the 23rd.
True.
Yes,
So this is July's regular business meeting
business meeting.
being
Okay.
held on the 2nd of August.
All right.
Because we need 5 board members.
Yeah, sorry. And do we know that the other board members are in
Yes.
fact available
We do.
for the second? So, and the three of us are good.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So that's for August 2nd. And then there would be the August business meeting on the 23rd. That's on the.
So the August 2nd would actually be the June financials and all of that. We don't have,
Minutes to be approved,
yes, all of that.
all of that stuff. Okay.
Yes.
So plenty of action.
And this is a total non sequitur, but as you go into the adjournment, I just want to say, I don't know that it was Mr. Doherty's strategy, but he holds the record for the shortest board meeting still at 24 minutes. So
I'm not sure if that's a good
He's saying he
thing.
made extra comments tonight to make sure.
that was,
I'm not in that competition. I am not competing for that. In fact, if you ask me, I'll compete for the longest. Yeah. Okay, so you will announce, as you said, prior to, but the public that's listening to this recording, public that's following us along this evening, they will know that there is
And-
a second.
And this is considered an announcement. So when I put the notice out, I generally reference the announcement that was made at the board meeting on 7th of July for,
And this will be, forgive me, but this will be a special, regular board meeting. I'm asking my fellow board members, will there be public participation at this meeting?
it'll be, yes.
I'm asking my
Oh,
board
sorry.
members, Mr. Giuffre,
Are you asking for? an
because there is
opinion?
not usually in a work session or a
is-
special meeting, but this is a rescheduled
Regular.
business meeting. So I'm asking so the public knows if there will
Are
be
you-
public participation.
And in asking, you're asking for our opinions.
Yes,
which would be an absolute yes from me.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I just wanted to confirm what would be on the agenda.
It also means it'll be six PM meeting.
Yes.
It would be.
I appreciate you making this meeting 7 this evening. I had a Great Oaks meeting that I needed to attend before this, so.
And, since we've gotten on this subject of the potential levy discussion at August 2nd meeting, and I know you've been on vacation, Mike, but between now and August 2nd, any planned interface with the community to further discuss the idea of a levy and all that?
I've got a couple evenings scheduled at residents' houses to go over the strategic vision. I would imagine those questions will come up. Nothing planned specifically. The thought being that if it is on the ballot, that's when we start to discuss. But
I guess what I'm asking,
Yeah.
what I'm surfacing, I think is the need to elicit community feedback on this and have a robust dialogue underway. I realize the dialogue goes all the way up to November.
Right.
So I mean, there's the only decision that presumably could occur on the 2nd is to give it to the voters to decide. So there'll be plenty of opportunity for interaction subsequently, but I think, it's been obviously such a controversial topic here in Loveland for a number of years that being very open to having the conversation with folks and
We
providing the opportunity to do so would be a beneficial thing for everybody.
And we've had folks in, we've had folks request information. So it's been ongoing pretty much since the last.
Yeah, I've had a lot of people into the office, which is good. I have a key communicator group put together, which is about 30 to 35. Andrew and I are putting together a little FAQ sheet that I would like to put out that could answer some questions that people may have. So in regards to getting information out, we will do that. In terms of a formal community hearing or something like that, I don't have anything like that scheduled. I'm open to any ideas to make sure that the public is aware of what we're doing. We've been pretty open about everything that this levy would address.
Yeah, I'm not sure what to suggest tonight exactly, but I do think that, it just has history here. And I think we owe it to the community to seek their opinions, seek their advice on it. We have to make a call as a board. We have to make a call. Around about August 2nd, we have to make a call if we're going to give it to the voters in November.
And I would advocate that once the board has made then we can engage the community. Until the board makes the decision, we're just answering questions of folks that are asking.
Well, maybe just outreach at this point would be appropriate because it is the summer. Communications are always less perfect during the summer months. But some form of outreach to let the public know this is under discussion. That there is a pathway to ask questions and to submit comments about it, what the process is, those kinds of things, and maybe a reemphasizing that a lot of communications will occur after a decision is rendered about putting it on the ballot.
Yeah, no, I agree. We have our community newsletter group that we could put a lot of information out to make sure that people are aware that we are open to communication. I've had a lot of communication. A lot of people are aware what the discussion is, but it doesn't hurt to, sometimes I've been told we over communicate. That's okay. It's better to do that than under, right? So
Keep it up.
Point. I hear you, and we'll sit down and figure out what that looks like and make sure we're getting it out to the community at large, not just the school community.
Thank you very much. All right, at this time, it would be appropriate for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Reverend Eilert moved and Mr. Doherty seconded. How about if we all just say aye?
Aye.
Oh, Betty.
Meeting adjourned at 7:44.